Domestic violence is a serious issue. Many crimes go unreported, and lots of abusers do get away with it. To address this problem, the criminal legal system has built and created systems with stronger penalties and broader definitions of what constitutes domestic violence. As a result, sadly, some people use the domestic violence court system as a sword rather than a shield. Let's say you're a college student and you get into a shoving match with your roommate. Most people would not think of that as a domestic violence situation. But because the definition of intra-family in DC includes roommates, you'd end up finding yourself in domestic violence court. In other situations, sometimes a partner will use allegations of domestic violence to gain a tactical advantage in a divorce or child custody case. Because of the potential for abuse, it's important to understand what the stakes are if you get convicted. So, in this video, we'll be discussing exactly that. What are the consequences of a domestic violence conviction in the District of Columbia? My name is Joseph Scrofano, and I'm the founder and managing partner of Scrofano Law PC, where we fight relentlessly on behalf of anyone in trouble who cares about their future. In our society, if you are convicted of a crime, a court is going to issue some type of punishment. The punishment can involve a number of things, including jail time, probation, court-ordered classes or treatment, drug testing, stay-away orders from people or locations. As the saying goes, you do the crime, you do the time. Unfortunately, it's not always that easy. While a person might do the time and repay their debt to society, those people often face collateral consequences for their convictions that are at times worse than the punishment, the sentence that the judge imposed. This can be especially true for people who have been convicted of domestic violence or DV offenses within the District of Columbia. In the District of Columbia Superior Court, there is a domestic violence court to ensure that adequate time and attention are given to the sensitive intra-family issues that come up in these types of cases. There's also a special division within the United States Attorney's Office that prosecutes domestic violence offenses. This division is well known to be much more aggressive than the General Misdemeanor Division in that office. The U.S. Attorney's Office Domestic Violence Division rarely offers diversions in cases they prosecute. They will even try and go forward in cases where the complaining witnesses do not wish to press charges or go forward. They generally extend harsher plea offers and seek stiffer sentences from the judges if a defendant is convicted. What makes a case, let's say a typical simple assault case, a domestic violence case rather than just a normal misdemeanor case? The defendant and the complaining witness must be in an intra-family relationship for the case to be a DV case. And DC Code 16-1001 broadly defines intra-family relationship. Quote, intra-family offense means an offense punishable as a criminal offense against an intimate partner, a family member, or a household member, or an offense punishable as cruelty to animals under DC Code 22-1001 or -1002 against an animal that an intimate family partner or family member or household member owns, possesses, or controls. The code further defines intimate partner as a person to whom the offender is or was married, with whom the offender is or was in a domestic partnership, with whom the offender has a child in common, or with whom the offender is, was, or is seeking to be in a romantic, dating, or sexual relationship. So that means someone you've been married to, in a domestic partnership, have a child in common with, or is, was, or seeking to be in a romantic, dating, or sexual relationship. That last one literally means it could be someone you basically have a crush on, and you could end up in domestic violence court. Family member is also defined broadly as a person to whom the offender is related by blood, adoption, legal custody, marriage, or domestic partnership, or who is the child of an intimate partner. Finally, household member means person with whom in the past year the offender shares or has shared a mutual residence and has maintained a close relationship beyond mere acquaintances, rendering application of the statute appropriate. The term close relationship does not include a relationship based solely on a landlord and tenant relationship. Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. A family member is basically anyone you're related to, including in-laws, and a household member can be a strictly platonic roommate And then there's a catch-all provision basically stating anyone you have a close relationship with beyond mere acquaintances. This could also apply if you were subletting your apartment to another person in your residence, and that would definitely constitute someone who you're, quote, sharing a mutual residence with. We talked earlier about folks using the domestic violence system as a sword rather than a shield. An area ripe for abuse is when a roommate situation goes bad and one tries to get the other out of the apartment by filing charges and getting a court-ordered stay away from the apartment, which is much easier to do than going through landlord-tenant court. After a domestic violence conviction, you are exposed to a number of collateral consequences from the court and the rest of the society that may have long-lasting effects on your life. Collateral consequences are basically consequences of an arrest or conviction that society imposes on you separate from what the judge does at sentencing. These collateral consequences can be separated into three categories: legal consequences, loss of privileges and rights, and social consequences. One of the legal consequences you could face if convicted of a domestic violence offense is having to abide by a court-ordered stay-away order placed against you. This means you would not be able to speak to certain people or go to certain places listed on that order, including your own home. And if you violate the order, the government can charge you with contempt of court. Another legal consequence is the court may limit or deny the custody you have over your children. For non-citizens convicted of domestic violence, they could face serious immigration problems. Depending on the situation, they could be deported, denied re-entry, or denied citizenship or green card, among other things. DV collateral consequences also include loss of privileges and rights. For example, if you're convicted of a domestic violence offense, you're prohibited from owning a firearm in DC and in most states. You may lose your right to travel outside the country, depending on your conditions of probation. The social consequences are the ones that probably have the longest lasting effects on an individual convicted of a domestic violence offense, because they hinder one's ability to get a job, to get a house, and to otherwise live their life the way they want. These can be very serious reputational consequences. For instance, you may not be able to receive certain public assistance, and if you receive public assistance, you may lose some of those benefits. Similarly, you may have a harder time finding housing or a job. Many places require you to disclose prior convictions and or may do background checks when you apply for them. A domestic violence conviction may hinder your ability to get a desired security clearance for a specific job, and other jobs like childcare, foster care, teaching, and healthcare might be harder for you to get. You might also have a difficult time getting a degree in higher education or obtaining student loans to pay for that education. In addition, you may lose your ability to adopt children in the future. If you're arrested for a domestic violence offense, it's essential that you speak to an attorney that can help you try and avoid that conviction. An arrest may be serious enough. Many consequences discussed are only triggered upon conviction, though. So give us a call for a free consultation, and go ahead and give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to our channel for weekly informative videos on criminal law topics in DC, Maryland, and Virginia.